Dan the Wheelman here. The BMW X3 crossover is a huge seller for the manufacturer in Canada. It comes in all sorts of styles, starting with the base X330i version, all the way up to the crazy X3M competition performance model. This here is the xDrive30e, or 30e, or whatever. All you have to know is it's the plug-in hybrid, or PHEV, or PHEV version of the X3. It's got a little more power than does the 30i, a little bit less than the 40i, but it also has full EV capabilities if you have an appropriate charge. As a result, I think it's a really, really good mix of all worlds when it comes to the X3. I'm looking forward to seeing how it performs. So we're going to take this for a drive through the city of Vancouver and in the mountains around there to kind of see what's what when it comes to the 2020 BMW X3 xDrive30e. Ah, yes, the BMW cockpit. Always a great place to be. Everything kind of angled towards the driver. Big fan of that. This X330e starts at $59,900 thereabouts. Couple of option packages drive mine up to over 72 grand to 72,840. I'll put that on the screen right here. I've got the M Sport package, which adds great 20-inch wheels, special brakes, different steering, some different aerodynamic stuff as well. That costs you $3,500. And then I've got the premium package as well, which is $6 grand, which gets you stuff like the HUD and this big huge sunroof. So it does get up there, but it does come well equipped. I love this backup cam, nice high def screen. You've got the above view as well, so you can actually choose which camera you're using. As you see here, I press that. That gives me the kind of the rear corner view. If I want to look ahead, I can hit that, look ahead. If I want to look behind, look behind. So that's a really cool kind of feature that just makes so much sense. Climate control system, big and wide. Buttons aren't too small and fiddly, so that's nice. And of course, you've got the iDrive controller down here as well. I've got wireless Apple CarPlay here with wireless charging, which is cool. Of course, I've got the traditional USB slot there if I want to charge it that way as well. Digital gauge cluster, paddle shifter, so techie cockpit, but one that doesn't look overly so. The colors they choose are nice. I've got ambient lighting in here. That does come as part of one of those packages I talked about. Those, so you got to pay a little bit extra to get it, but the ambient lighting kind of makes it a little cooler in here, a little more relaxed, and I'm a big fan of that. So let's go take a look at the back seat. So while the X3 does sit firmly in the compact crossover category, well, the compact luxury crossover category anyway, it doesn't feel too bad back here. Front seat, of course, as usual, is adjusted for my 6'3" frame. If you were a shorter driver, the rear seat passenger would have more room, but it's not too bad. I'm having to splay my knees a little bit to fit comfortably back here, but the seat must be nice and low mounted, because as I look up, my bill doesn't touch the top. I've got lots of room here, lots of headroom. Even with this shield closed, I think it wouldn't be a problem. I'm not exactly sure how to do that, because it's not like from the outside the X3 looks that tall and ungainly, but in here it seems like it should. So nice for that kind of room. Of course, we've got cup holders here and armrest. Cup holders are a little flimsy. I don't love these doors. I feel like they break rather easily, but at least when they close, it's flush mounted, so if you don't have a beverage there, you can use it nice and comfortably. I've got my own climate control system, heated seats. I have 2 USB ports. They are both of the USB-C variety, so you want to keep that in mind. Seat's a little bit flat. I'd be worried that I'd be sliding kind of to and fro when we go through turns back here. There isn't a lot of side bolstering here, but what that does do though is make fitting a child seat rather easy. I did that with my 3-year-old forward-facing child seat. Got in here no problem. Nice flush-mounted ISO fixed latches, and in the back, the anchor for the over-the-shoulder strap is quite low down on the seat back there, so you really get nice leverage to pull it nice and tight, so it makes it a little bit easier to install. And of course, I've also got cup holders in the doors too, and some privacy screens. This is part of one of those option packages I talked about earlier though, so you want to keep that in mind. It's a nice back seat in the X3. And of course, the rear seat folds nice and flat. Just pull the top lever right here on the top and it goes no problem. And that's a good thing because, actually, I should mention, this is not just a single. This is actually a 40-20-40 split. So if you want to fit longer items but not waste a whole outboard seat, you can do that. So that's great. And it's good too because this is the hybrid version or the PHEV version, there is a battery in the trunk floor there, and that makes it so there isn't really any, it raises the floor a bit, so you lose a little bit of cargo room back there, and there isn't really a kind of a under the floor door to fit more stuff in. There's a little bit of slot at the front there, but you can't fit much in there, and chances are your charge cable could be using that anyways if you were to be transporting that with you. So it's good that you can fold these nice and easily flat, and it's good they're a nice 40-20-40 split. So yes, this is the BMW X3 30e or 30e or whatever. It's the plug-in hybrid version of the X3, of BMW's huge selling X3. I'm in the San Francisco Giants hat today because San Francisco really is the hub of Silicon Valley. Some might argue San Jose, but I don't have any San Jose hats, so the Giants hat it is. And vehicles like this plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, like the Tesla Model S, like the Toyota Prius, are as ubiquitous in and around San Fran as Toyota Corollas and pickup trucks are in the rest of North America. So the Giants hat it is. So the X3 30e gets an EV motor mounted to the transmission. It's an 8-speed automatic transmission, and what that does is it basically takes the total combined power available to the tune of about 288 horsepower and 310 thereabouts pound-feet of torque. It's not only a hybrid in that it's got a hybrid powertrain, but it's a hybrid in that you get kind of a mix of efficiency and power that you don't really get with either of the X3s on either side, and that's kind of a bit of a sweet spot, I think, with regards to the X3. Now, so this is a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. Quick primer on that. Basically, it works as a hybrid, as you might expect, as like a Toyota Camry or Corolla or Prius hybrid does, in that it's got an EV motor, a small EV motor to kind of complement the gas engine, more quicker throttle response, more power, and EV motoring if the charge allows for it. And now that's the big kind of key there. You get a lot more EV mileage out of a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle because you can plug it in every night. It's got a bigger battery than a regular hybrid does. So you're going to get more EV mileage, or kilometrage, out of a PHEV than you would of a regular hybrid. So this one here, depending on which study you look at, the European kind of testing that's done to achieve or to figure out what the mileage figures are, comes to a total of about 51 kilometers of all EV driving. The North American version, though, I believe it's called WLTP. It is a much stricter process. They run the cars faster. They use more of the onboard kind of climate control system stuff that takes away power. So you tend to get lower ranges out of them. I'm going to go with that, and that's 29 kilometers. The WLTP offers 29, or claims or estimates 29 kilometers of full EV range from the X3. Now, that, of course, really depends on how you're driving. And for me, because I'm not the only person who've driven this vehicle, this is a press car, it's been driven by tons of journalists here in Vancouver. When I first got into this and I plugged it in and got a full charge, I only got a 20 kilometer kind of estimation of that's how much charge I was going to get, or how much range I was going to get from my charge. Now, that's because the car can look back and be like, okay, well, last week you drove this thing at 100 kilometers an hour on average for 5 straight days or whatever, so you're not going to get 29 kilometers, because that tends to, when you drive it faster, you use more power. So I'm getting about 20, a claim 20 on a full charge, which I understand, but man, that is not big. That is low. A lot of these plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, say the Volvo T8 vehicles, the XC60 T8 would be the direct competitor to this, you can get 35, 40, and sometimes more. And when I tested it, I got that from those vehicles, and they claim higher as well on the WLTP. And so this one here, I was surprised to see that it really is not a huge amount of EV range. But that being said, I have driven this vehicle for probably about 50 kilometers so far in the city, and I've used almost no gas. My gas mileage, or my gas indicator, is still showing full. Of course, the highway drive I'm going to do today is going to take that down a few pegs, obviously, but in the city where the car is charging itself as you drive, I've been able to hold it with almost using, by my indicator here, I don't think I've used any gas at all. It's kind of a weird gas gauge. It's kind of hard to read. But anyway, so that's good. And this has a number of computer systems on board that let you to kind of tell the car how you want the EV system to work. There are your typical sport, comfort, and eco pro buttons. You see that in all sorts of BMWs, both PHEV versions and non. So those will modify your kind of your throttle inputs. If you put it in Eco Pro mode, it won't let you use the climate control system to as much of its ability, and so on. But on the X330e, there's also an eDrive button, and what that does is it allows you to choose between 3 different kinds of E modes, I guess you can say. And you've either got Auto eDrive, which is kind of the basic mode. It basically you're telling the car to, you tell me how much mileage you're going to get, and you look at my throttle inputs, you look at my my kind of driving style, and then you tell me how much it's going to be. Or you can choose Max eDrive, which will reduce the amount of power and throttle response you get, but it will give you the most EV range of any of the modes. This is what you want to use when you're in the city, you're in stop and go traffic. You don't need fast throttle response. You don't need to have all full power because you're in stop and go traffic anyway. You'd rather save that for the highway. Then there's battery control mode. And what battery control mode does is it will never let the battery go below a certain percentage. You can set that percentage in the infotainment system here. And I've got it set to 80% right now. So in this mode that I'm in now, it will use the gas engine to charge the battery, essentially, as well as the brake regeneration, coast regeneration, and so on. So you never go below. Now you want to use that when you're on the highway. You're on the highway and you're going on a nice speed. On the highway at speed without traffic, that's when a gas engine is at its most efficient, and that's when an EV motor is at its least efficient, because you're going to be using a lot of power to go at highway speeds. You don't want to necessarily do that. You'd rather maybe save that EV juice for when you're in the town at the end of your drive. When you're in town at the end of your drive, maybe you're in traffic, that's when you want to have EV power, because that's when a gas engine is at its least efficient. You with me still? Okay. So right now I've got it in, because I've been pressing the buttons, I have it in the battery charge mode. That's not the mode I'm going to have it in here, because I'm in the city. I don't want to leave it there. I'm going to go back to Max eDrive, which is going to give me the most bang for my buck, as it were, when it comes to the amount of charge I have. So there is a learning curve here. Talk to your dealer if you're thinking about getting one of these. I'm sure they can take you through all the steps. But once you get used to it, you can get the most out of this computer on wheels, car, once you get used to all those different drive modes. So I've got it in sport mode here, both with the transmission here, with the shift lever, and with my drive modes. I've got them both in sport mode. Everything is a little bit tauter now. Turn-in is more responsive, which is surprising because it's pretty responsive even in non-sport mode. The transmission holds onto gears a little bit longer. It shifts them a little bit quicker. And if I want, I can shift them on all of these great paddle shifters here. And this is a very quick shifting transmission. I mean, this really, really quick. So that's nice to kind of get the most out of the turbocharged power I have. I've also got it in Auto eDrive, which is basically, it means hybrid essentially. So it's this now, the X3 will use that EV motor as well as the gas motor to give you the quickest kind of way down the road, and it is quick. Sounds good too. Have a listen. Don't know a lot of PHEVs sound like that. Anyway, that it's really quick. It's very quick, and I was really curious to see how much the added weight from the EV drivetrain would affect the handling and dynamics of the vehicle, and so far so good. In fact, I think they're almost helping, because with that with that heavy battery kind of weighing down the vehicle a little bit, it's mounted in the trunk. It might make its way slightly underneath the rear seats as well, but it's mounted low, so it brings the center of gravity down, which helps reduce body roll, which is always important, whether you're in a sedan or a SUV, but perhaps more so an SAV, as BMW calls it, I should say, sports activity vehicle, because it's a higher riding vehicle in general. I mean, the nature of these kinds of vehicles to be a little bit higher riding. They are meant to be used in snowy conditions, gravel roads, stuff like that. Yeah, I wouldn't say that, of course, this is without driving the 4.0i or the 3.0i back to back. I wouldn't say that I could close my eyes and say, oh yeah, I could really feel that extra weight slung out over the rear of this car from that battery. That's really affecting I wouldn't say that at all. I mean, it still has that great solid ride. It's responsive, it's quick, and it's a lot of fun. So after spending some time with the X3 xDrive30e, I think I was right at the outset of the video. This is a really good mix of all things X3. It's a really good sweet spot in the lineup. Yeah, maybe it's not as fun as the M40i, which I have sampled, but the M40i doesn't have the peace of mind that comes with having EV capabilities. Plus, I've got more power here than I do with the base model 3.0i. It doesn't feel slow out on the highway, and when I wanted to, it's efficient as well. That EV motor really does help with a lot of aspects of the drive. Do I wish there was a little more range? Yeah, I do. The X545e has better range than this one does. The X5, of course, being the X3's kind of bigger sibling. It's probably got a bigger battery in it. I don't have the specs right in front of me, but I'm assuming that's what it is. It's a bigger vehicle. There's more room to fit larger batteries in there. But if you're smart with this and you plug in every night, you can be in EV mode most of the time. Plus, you have all those great kind of tools to help you get the most out of your EV powertrain. This is a really well thought out vehicle. It's well engineered, and it's impressive that BMW managed to take a non-EV vehicle, the X3, and turn it into a car that, like I said before, for all intents and purposes, can be used as a full EV vehicle, given the right charge and so on. So good on them for doing that. And price is good. If you don't need all the special packages that I have, you can save some money, get it down to around the 55 grand. That's pretty good for a luxury plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. It really is. So yeah, a real sweet spot in the X3 lineup here with the X3 xDrive30e. Thanks for tuning into the video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. If not, no hard feelings. You can also follow me on Twitter at Dan the Wheelman and on Instagram at Dan the Wheelman as well. So for auto123.com, I'm Dan Heyman. Thanks for tuning in, and sayonara, folks.